I want to introduce to you now, great guy, Cameron Police Chief Randy Dixon. Chief, how you doing?
Doing great today.
Glad you're back on. We talked to you a little bit earlier in the show, but we had you on a ways back and I read a whole bio on you. Ladies and gentlemen, this guy goes back a long ways. How many years, Chief, you've been law enforcement?
42 and a half now.
42 and a half, and you've gotten major awards, not awards, recognitions from President Reagan, right?
Clinton, actually.
Clinton, sorry.
Don't hold it against me.
You want to give us a couple of details of what you do?
Yeah, we had back in the 80s, 90s, we worked a very active program in Temple PD with crime prevention, with children, with activities and drug resistance, and it was recognized by the president a couple of times.
So you got your stuff going on. And that's why I'm happy to have you in here and talk to you and have everybody listen to you, because you got a whole bunch of experience. Let me tell you one of the reasons why I asked you on it. I was reading an article, and it says burglaries prompt meeting. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to read this article a little bit just to give you an idea why we brought it in. But we're going to be talking about neighborhood watches. This goes about 20 North Temple residents concerned about home burglaries in their neighborhood met Sunday afternoon and decided to become part of the already existing Jackson Park Neighborhood Watch. Our biggest concern is that we lose the safety of our neighborhood, said Mary Nelson. We see it coming if we don't bond together as a community. Be aware and just not make it easy. She and her husband Roy, who live on North 5th Street, invited their neighbors to the meeting and a free barbecue. And Officer Bradley Perrin, a member of the Community-Oriented Policing Services with the Temple Police Department, and Corporal David Hess, a patrol officer, provided information and answered questions. Perrin got everybody's name and address and asked them to think about electing a block captain. So I want to talk about that too, Chief. It's kind of up to them how they want to do things, Perrin said. The whole idea is to make it where it's convenient for your neighborhood, and we talked about that in the pre-show. The City of Temple has 15 neighborhood watches and from 12 to 15 community groups that are not fully organized. We're having people contact us to get more started all over town. So I'll tell you what, let's stop there. Chief, I read that article, and I'm saying to myself, you know, I used to have a neighborhood watch sign on my fence post, and that was about 20-something years ago. It fell off, but I'm my own neighborhood watch. I'm constantly looking. Why don't we talk about this now?
Sure.
And you had sent me some information. I don't really want to read off of this. I want to just hit on a couple points, and you just start talking about it. But the first question would be this. What's a neighborhood watch? Why is it important? Just give us a quick overview, and then we'll get into the details.
A neighborhood watch is a program that is actually, it's a citizen's effort to protect their own neighborhood. You know, in any city, I don't care whether it's Temple, Cameron, or Killeen, you have to have police officers, obviously, to do the job of patrol, answer calls, etc. They can't be everywhere at one time. It takes another set of eyes. It takes people wanting to protect their own neighborhood that's interested in making sure their house is not a victim of a burglary, a theft, or whatever, to get together and organize in a reporting effort to make them safer. Now, just putting a sign up, and I'll be first to tell you, I know a lot of neighborhoods that have just put a sign up and think that's a neighborhood watch. That's not a neighborhood watch. That's a sign effort. A neighborhood watch is when you actually have your neighbors doing like we used to do here in Temple back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, where you watched each other's neighborhood. I grew up here in Temple and back in the 50s, 60s, 70s on North 27th Street here in town, and everybody knew each other. When someone was out of town, we went out of town. We didn't lock our doors, didn't have to. But you can't do that anymore.
Not anymore. Is it because the society is so transient now?
Society has changed. It's transient. It's a me, I think, society more than anything else anymore, which back then it was a let's take care of our neighbors society. So a neighborhood watch group organizes neighbors' blocks, several blocks, where they meet. They elect a captain who is kind of the ramrodder of it. And I don't mean they're not the boss. All they do is a coordinator.
Would he or she be the one that initially came up with the concept?
Yes.
Okay.
They contact the police department for a date and time when all the citizens can meet in somebody's home or out in a block or out in a yard, and the officer can come talk to them about what their responsibilities are, and more importantly, what the responsibilities are not in a neighborhood watch as well.
Why don't we talk about that right off at the get-go here? What are the responsibilities and what are not? Because I was going to ask, you've got protection of life and property, protection of a third person, so on and so forth.
Right.
So how does that fit into the mix here?
One of the things that you have to look at is what does it take to make crime? There is a something that's known as the crime triangle. That's ability, opportunity, and desire. You can't control somebody's ability to do something, a criminal effort. You can't control their desire, but you can control a person's opportunity to commit a crime against you, and that's the purpose of Neighborhood Watch. We start off by securing our own house, our own property. We make sure that we've got lights up at nighttime. We put the right door locks on. We secure our windows. We mark our valuables. We photograph our valuables. We trim our shrubbery. We do that first. That is one of the main essence of Neighborhood Watch. An officer will tell people how to secure their homes. And then what the other part of that is, you look out, you see people that are in your neighborhood that doesn't belong. You write down license plate numbers. You write down a description of the person. And then you call your neighbor and check on your neighbor once in a while. You check to see if they're going to be out of town. Hopefully you get to know your neighbor well enough that they trust you, that if they're going out of town, they'll call and say, "Hey, Joe, I'm going out of town. Would you watch around my property for me?" Now, what it's not an armed vigilante group. I encourage everyone to have their license to carry. Protect your own property, protect your livelihood, protect yourself inside your home. But we don't want armed citizens going around and confronting everybody that walks up and down your block. That'd be the same as if we confronted everybody that we saw on open carry. It's not right. Consider that.
What you sent me here, there was three words that I highlighted. It says reporting suspicious activity. I bring that up because if we talk about C.J. Grisham again, if you look at it all, take all the weird stuff out of it, and just say some woman called because she saw something strange, a guy with a rifle. First of all, it's because everybody had 10 different answers as to whether you could carry a rifle in the open. But when you say responding suspicious activity, how crazy can that become? Is these people going to be going, "Oh my gosh, I see somebody, I've never seen them before," and they're just walking through, and it causes all sorts of craziness?
What we encourage people to do is, we live in a free society where it's not against the law to walk up and down the street. It's not against the law to walk up and down sidewalks that the town provides. But if they see someone that is staring at their property, is stopping and milling around, if they're not traveling through, if they're in a vehicle, they're going back to a vehicle, getting out of the vehicle, or if they see a vehicle sitting in their property with people in the car that they've not seen before, that's suspicious in any ways you look at it. And I would a whole lot rather a citizen call and report that to the police department and let the police department check it out than not do anything and then find out somebody's home was robbed or burglarized, or their property was something stolen from their property, or even worse, somebody was injured or taken advantage of inside the home.
Chief, let me ask you something here. I think I know the answers. I'm just saying it for course of conversation here and maybe open up something I'm not aware of. Here you got this Neighborhood Watch, and your neighbor requests that you check out the property, and all of a sudden you're on your property, but you see something funny on their property. So you go over and do based on your agreement with the neighbor, and while you're there, you're seeing something weird, and the property and within the rights of the law of what you can do to use force, reasonable necessary force, or deadly force, you apply those. I mean, is that a total separate thing from Neighborhood Watch, or will that get pulled into the Neighborhood Watch attitude?
Actually, that's a separate issue altogether. What we would rather people do is report. Call if you see something, watch them, and then call the police department and let them go over and do. That's what they get paid to do. They get paid to go in to protect your property. I'm not saying people shouldn't confront them if it's imminent, but if you've got an opportunity where you can call and let the professionals who have the marked badge, who have the uniform on, it just makes it a lot easier for everybody involved.
I know where I live. I live out in the country, and we have lots of little communities out in the country. I mean, it's all one big community, but the way the terrain sets, and you have houses that are further away from other houses, they all become their little communities.
Right.
And what's nice is we've got visual contact with each other. We got our cell phone numbers. We can text people. We can call up. We can look, or if we had to, call up. So that's a really great thing, like you're saying, know your neighbors. Whereas when you're in a city environment, wouldn't you agree that because you got rental properties, you have more people coming in and going out as compared to somebody who buys a piece of land, they got a ranch, they got a farm or something, they're pretty much there for a while.
Right. One of the things that I saw very interesting in my time in police work is, and it's in two different neighborhoods, there is the Neighborhood Watch captain, the block captain, actually had put together a list of who lived in what house, went door to door asking, tell them this is what it's for. It's not just for this. Who is supposed to be here? Do you have a emergency contact number, cell phone number? And if they see somebody walking around their house, they can call them and say, "Are you okay? Is somebody supposed to be there?" And then that gives them an opportunity to be able to call somebody.
Yeah, that's a great concept. Get to know your friend, get to know your neighbors. That helps out a lot. Judge, Chief, on this form you sent me here, we're talking about, so what does it take to start and maintain an effective neighborhood watch? Go over that again. What would be the steps? You'd find the person and they call the police department,
right?
And do you have somebody specific in like Cameron, for example?
In Cameron, we have different officers that are what we consider ourselves a community-oriented policing, community policing project. So our entire department is geared towards safety. Now, in Temple, for instance, they have a specific community policing department within its department that officers will come out and they'll present neighborhood watch programs. We used to call it the crime prevention unit. That's kind of waned over the years, and that acronym has gone away. The only thing that really has to take place to organize it is find one or two citizens that's fed up, someone who wants to make their quality of life, their neighborhood's quality of life better. So they go around and ask their neighbors, "Are you interested in doing this?" If they get a favorable yes, then set a time and a date, couple of them probably, and then call your local police department and ask them who handles the neighborhood watch program. And almost every single department in the area does this.
Now, is this going to be different if a neighborhood watch personnel sees something and they're going to call law enforcement? They're going through the 911, or they're calling the officer in charge?
No, they call 911.
Okay.
They call for an immediate officer to come out.
And is there anything when they're doing the 911 call? I know 911 dispatchers, and you have to be very specific. Is there anything that they should make up front known?
They need to tell what the situation is, what makes them believe that somebody is doing something that is up to no good, what's suspicious.
Well, like I was reading that article here, it said they actually gave a name to it, the existing Jackson Park Neighborhood Watch. Does law enforcement have it listed as, hey, this is a group that
Not usually.
Okay, so
No.
when a 911 call goes, it's just basic person who sees it is calling 911, and
Right.
they take it from there.
Right.
What I was trying to get at was, if the department knows that there's a watch out there and that they know that this person's calling in from that watch, it may say, oh, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. They've gone through the protocol of what things we should know and all that. I thought it might make it easier.
It absolutely would not hurt for them to say that. Absolutely. I would. If someone calls our 911 system and they say that we're in a neighborhood watch group that's located on South 30th Street here in Temple, then absolutely tell the officers that. That way, that gives a little bit of validity to the fact they're not just calling because they're just calling. But mainly, when a person calls to report something, there's certain information that 911 call taker is going to need, and that's time, place, suspicious activity, what it looks like, license plate number, color of car, if you can't get a license plate number, color of car, big car, small car, medium car, four-door, no lights, anything that you can help.
Why is it so hard, again, to keep a neighborhood watch going?
The hardest thing is people get ambivalent. People think, well, we really don't need it. If nothing's happening in our neighborhood.
That's a surefire sign that it's working.
It's working. That's exactly right. My neighborhood is safe. We've not had anything happen here in 6 years extra. It's kind of like, what do we have insurance for? We carry insurance because of what could happen.
What could happen? Spare tire in your car.
Exactly. That's exactly the same reason you need to be prepared. Preparedness.
I can't talk about that enough, everybody. Preparedness. People keep saying, oh, you're just paranoid. No, paranoid is when you don't know. I know things are going to happen, so I want to be prepared for it. And that's part of what this show is all about. It's giving out information there that can help you get prepared in situations. And we're trying to go over as many different topics as we can in the course of this radio program, not just this show, but every show, so that you can glean off of it and maybe spark your creative ideas out there. Say, hey, I'm a little weak in this area, a little weak in this one. I need work. Oh, that was great information. Never thought about that. So on and so forth. While I was reading this, Chief, I saw it said here, opportunity reduction and social problems. Can you explain on that, what those terms mean and what they're for?
Basically, social problems we'll go with opportunity. Number one, we reduce the opportunity for something to happen to us. That's what Neighborhood Watch does. It teaches us to take care of ourselves first. I can't. You can go up and down neighborhoods, and you can see garage doors raised up. You can see cars left unlocked. Last year in our city, we had X number of auto burglaries. All but 2 were unlocked vehicles. All but 2 for the whole year. You've got to reduce the opportunity for that to happen. Social disorder. If you take stock in your neighborhood and you act like you care about your neighborhood, you're going to take care of your neighborhood better. It's kind of like the broken windows theory. If you have a neighborhood that's run down, that's got junk cars, that's got windows broke everywhere, that's got graffiti painted everywhere, it's like nobody cares.
Would you say that what you're talking about is like somebody standing with a command posture, and then when somebody sees them, they're going to say, that guy's got it going on, he's aware, he's got command presence, as compared to somebody with their head down and becoming a potential victim?
Absolutely.
So having your local area, your neighborhood watch looking good, dressed right, dressed looking good, standing tall, as compared to somebody who's run down, the criminal may say, oh, this is an easy mark, as compared to one that's not.
Right. And the good part about that is you can live in the most expensive part of this city, or you can live in the most economically blighted part of this city. But if you have pride in your neighborhood, that has nothing to do with it. You take care of your neighborhood. You get your neighbors to be proud of where they live, regardless of what the social economic conditions are.
Chief, did we talk about alternatives to a traditional neighborhood watch?
Sure, we haven't, but there are some alternatives. Some of them was where, and this is one that I'm familiar with a little bit, and I believe Waco tried this for a while, may still do this. They actually have people that sign up for shifts that will patrol their neighborhood, sit in a car that they have a magnetic sign that says neighborhood watch on the side.
Isn't that a disaster waiting to happen?
To me it is.
Trayvon Martin, isn't that a scenario like that?
Yes, sir. To me it is.
Don't get me wrong. I think that's awesome that people want to get involved, but I know you can get too enthusiastic and cause a problem.
You can, and sometimes people get a little overzealous and over-aggressive when they're trying to protect their neighborhoods. People still have the right to move in our country freely. And unfortunately, when you put somebody out on patrol, you give them a radio, you give them a card that says Neighborhood Watch Group, not everybody who comes in your neighborhood's a bad guy. You've got to watch. Matter of fact, no contact is a better thing. So the less you contact people, the more you let law enforcement contact them, the safer the community is.
One of the main things I teach, ladies and gentlemen, or one of my main concept ideas when I'm teaching, is that you never have to pull your gun in the first place. And that's with being aware of your surroundings, acknowledging a threat, and avoiding it if at all possible. So with this neighborhood watch deal, too, be observant, take all these tips of having pride in your neighborhood, knowing your neighbors, getting the numbers down, so on and so forth. Be aware, have a good relationship with law enforcement, get to know some of the officers directly, go say hi to your police chief, let them get to know you. I mean, it works out a lot when you get to know people on a personal basis. They know you're for real. They know you're trustworthy. They kind of listen to information that you're giving because you have accountability, and so that helps out a lot. If you're fly-by-night, and not making sense, sometimes like I do on this radio show, but if you're like that, they're probably not going to listen to you as much. So make sure you got your I's dotted and your T's crossed. Was there anything else on the alternatives?
That's about it. That's the main alternative to neighborhood watch.
Well, then I'll tell you what, Chief. We've only got about a minute or so left for this segment before I got to move on. Do you want to recap this? Do you want to talk about anything? You got 45 seconds here for the mic to tell us what you got and what we could possibly do to.
The main thing I'd like the listeners to understand is that the police department is there to help them. It's not just to write tickets, work recs. We want to be proactive in not having something happen. So we encourage citizens to pick up the telephone, call our police department, call whatever police department you're in, and say, what can you do to help my neighborhood and make it safer? What can you do to make my house safer? We'll send an officer out, we'll let them look at it, and they'll do a survey on your own home if you request it.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. So is there a department for that?
There usually it's handled up through your community policing department.
That's fantastic.
And there's no charge.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've had Cameron Police Chief Randy Dixon on here for the last 20 minutes, and he's been going over Neighborhood Watch, lots of good ideas. Chief, if they can't call their local police chief, can they call you?
Oh, absolutely. I've had people from every walk that I used to work or where I've worked call me. They're welcome to call 254-697-6574, and that's 254-697-6574. We had a blank there for a minute, and I'll answer any questions they can. I mean, I'd be happy to help them.
Here's another thing, too. When I talk to the chief, it's amazing. I'll ask a question, and you can see the computer banks working, and there's no notes needed. It's all in there. He's got this long history of law enforcement experience. He's got all this data that he can drop on you at any moment. So if you can, give him a call or go to your local police chief or your sheriff in your county, get a relationship going, and get your neighborhood watches going, because if we eliminate the opportunities for the crime, we'll eliminate crime to some degree. So that'll be great.